Okay, if you have not watched the viral video that's going around from American Idol of Hannah Harper singing String Cheese, you need to go see it. It went viral for a reason, and I want to talk about it. When she sang that song and told her story about suffering from postpartum depression, feeling overwhelmed, it is so raw and relatable and real. And it's something that I do not feel like we talk about enough, like when it comes to motherhood and raising kids. When she sang String Cheese, she told that story about sitting on the couch overwhelmed and just not wanting to be touched. And I think all moms feel that way. So I think it resonated because it validated something many moms do not say out loud, that you can love your kids more than anything and still have moments when you feel overwhelmed and still feel lost or feel like you don't recognize yourself. When she talked about struggling with postpartum depression, like it felt so honest, and as somebody who struggled with it myself, it was so relatable. And then when she said that motherhood was her biggest ministry, that being their mama was who she was meant to be. And I think that hit a lot of women in a tender place, because motherhood is sacred. It is meaningful, but there is more to the story. When I had my first baby a little over 2 years ago, I went through postpartum depression too. And it was very intense and it was very hard. That transition to motherhood just was very difficult for me. I remember sitting there some days just feeling numb and overstimulated, touched out, just guilty for wanting space and guilty for not feeling the overwhelming joy that I thought I was supposed to feel with a newborn baby. I mean, I loved my baby, but I had also felt like I lost myself. Like the person who I was before had just died. And I know that's dramatic, but it's honestly how I felt. And it was this constant question in the back of my mind of, is this who I am now? Is this it? Not because motherhood wasn't meaningful, but because I just didn't know where the rest of me had gone. The creative part, the ambitious part, the part of me that had dreams and ideas and momentum. It felt like that version of me had been packed away somewhere, and I just didn't know if I was allowed to open that box again. And that scared me. Something that helped me get out of that postpartum depression and then that feeling like I lost myself. I mean, over time, I started to feel better, but a lot of what helped was still making sure that I did things for myself. And I think that's really important to even model for our kids, to show that, hey, I'm important too. And it's okay to want things outside of motherhood. You know, and I recently started following Hannah on Instagram, and she's like my new best friend that doesn't know who I am. But she shares how, she would love a music career. But I think, it's especially as moms, we have a hard time feeling like we can do both. And I want to change that. I want to show that ambition and motherhood can live together, and you can find the balance that works with your life and is meaningful and purposeful. And that's where Hannah's story feels really layered to me. Like, yes, she had that moment of realizing how sacred motherhood was. She had stepped away from music for a season, and then she missed it. She started writing and posting and creating again, and she didn't abandon motherhood to chase ambition. And she didn't erase ambition to prove she loved motherhood. She allowed both to exist, just maybe not in the same way that they used to. And I think that's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. I don't think the real tension for moms who have dreams is, do I love my kids enough? I think it's, am I allowed to still want something for myself? Because when I became a mom, I felt like ambition just didn't have a place anymore. It was either fully lean into motherhood or fully chase your dreams. And if you admitted you still wanted something for yourself, that somehow meant you weren't grateful enough. And that's the part that felt isolating, because you don't just lose your ambition or your dreams once you become a mom. But I do think that it does look different, and it just kind of forces you to build differently and to go about things differently, but it doesn't disappear. What I've learned slowly and imperfectly is that motherhood reshaped my ambition. It made me more intentional, and it also made me think about my kids and how I want to be an example to them of following your dreams. And I think that you can do both. It just might look a little different than you had thought, but it's still possible. And I think you can balance both. And, it might look like working in pockets of time, or it might be slower growth. But I do think that it can feel even stronger and more powerful in a way. I don't think motherhood erases who we are. I think it refines us and makes us develop a new version of ourselves that's even better. And that's why I care so much about building creative income in a way that just works with real life. Because for moms, especially ambitious moms, the answer isn't just to suppress your dreams, and it's not to run yourself into the ground chasing them either. It's to let them evolve. You know, Hannah's moment was about string cheese, and it's so relatable, especially because my daughter is obsessed with string cheese and that's all she asks for. But I think what made it powerful is that it opened up something bigger. Again, if you have not watched Hannah Harper's Audition, then you need to go watch that. It's just so touching and so relatable, and I think there's a reason why it went viral, and so many moms have been speaking out, sharing their experience with motherhood. From one ambitious mom to another, you're allowed to love your children deeply, and you're allowed to still have dreams. Those things do not cancel each other out. They just change shape. And if you're navigating that tension too, you're not alone. I'd love for you to subscribe so that we can go through this journey together. I'm just rambling. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I don't know if that was even any good.